Welcome back to Kingdom Amelia. Today we are discussing Phylum Echinodermata. The common name is ectoderma, which means spiny skin. And there are roughly 6,000 species, which include sea stars, sea urchins, sand dollars, sea cucumbers, brittle stars, feather stars, sea lilies, and sea daisies.
The endoskeleton is made up of calcium carbonate plates and it usually has spines attached. The skin is covered with small pinchers called pedicellari that help with catching food and remove foreign materials. They also are deuterostomes, which means their mouth develops somewhere on the gastrula other than the opening. You say what? Here's a quick recap. Echinoderms are closely related to chordates, which humans belong to. Now we go into more detail of the 6 different classes of ectoderms. So listen up and pay attention.
First off, we have the sea stars, or starfish, which is probably what you call them. Most of you are probably pretty familiar with them, and have seen them dried up on the beach. Maybe even missing an arm or two. No worries to those. Sea stars are able to regenerate, which means they can regrow their arms. They break them off as defense mechanisms to get away from a predator, most usually near tide pools or near the shore. They use their 2 feet and arms to crawl and get food. Here's a gross fact for you. Some push their stomach out of their mouth onto their prey, and then digestive enzymes break up the food so they can bring them into their mouth. Using cilios. They eat clams and other bivalves. They can harm coral reefs because they feed on coral polyps. They have eye spots at the end of their arms that can detect light and movement. By the way, never ask a sea star for direction. Get it? You guys are a tough crowd. You want to tell them about brittle stars, Charlie?
Sure, Ryan. Brittle stars are the most abundant class of echinoderms and usually have 5 arms, but they are very thin and flexible. They do not have a suction cups on their 2 feet, so they use their arms in a snake-like or rowing motion to move. They feed on particles floating in the water, or they use mucus that is between their spines to catch food. On a side note, they have a commensalism relationship with sponges. Now Carter's going to tell you about my favorite ectoderms, sea urchins and sand dollars.
Thanks, Charlie. They use their 2 feet to burrow. Sand dollars burrow in the sand and feed off particles in the sand, and sea urchins burrow into rocky areas and use pedicellari to scrape off algae as they use their Aristotle lantern, a high-5 plated structure inside their mouth as a chewing mechanism. The Aristotle lantern is so strong that it can chew through concrete. The egg masses of sea urchins are eaten in some of the areas of the world. They can harm kelp forest, which is a habitat for many other marine organisms. Well, there you have the facts on those 2, and now I will turn it back to Ryan.
Are we boring you yet? No, that's great. Sea lilies and feather stars are the most ancient of the echinoderms. For part of their life they are sessile, which means they do not move. They have flower-shaped body at the top with either branch or stalk-like arms that radiate up towards the central area. They trap their food by extending their 2 feet and arms into the water. See, that wasn't too bad. Short and sweet. We only have 2 more to go. Big breath, and it will almost be over. I promise. Charlie, you're up. Try not to bore him.
I think you already did that, Ryan. Sea cucumbers have a longitudinal, leathery body. They crawl using 2 feet and body wall muscles. They eat by extending their tentacles covered in mucus, which are around their mouth, to trap food. Here is an interesting fact for you. As a defense mechanism, they can inject their intestines through their anus to confuse predators. That sounds very painful if you ask me. Sea cucumbers, along with sea urchins, are bioturbinators, which means they stir up sediments on the ocean floor so others have nutrients available. Sea cucumbers are eaten in sushi and used for flavor enhancers and soups. Yummy. And now, Carter, you get to cover the last class, sea daisies.
I appreciate that. Sea daisies are the newest members since they did not get discovered until 1986 in New Zealand. They are only 1 centimeter and are a disc shaped. They have no arms and their 2 feet are around the edge of the disc. Well, that sums up the different classes for you. Now here are some additional facts. Unfortunately, these might be a little boring. Ectoderms use their 2 feet for respiration. Oxygen diffuses through them or their thin membranes that come into contact with the water. Circulation takes place in the body, coelom, and water vascular system. Excretion of cellular waste happens by diffusing through the thin body membranes. Cilia helps with water and body fluids movement. And now, I will close our session off with a riddle. How did the sea star and the sea urchin pay for their dinner? They used a sand dollar.